Welcome to the Don't Know Much podcast, the DKM podcast, where we don't know much about anything, but what I do know is that, you know, still we're living in this new normal. I never understood the whole I want to go back to normal type of mentality. You can never really go back to normal, to the old normal. Times change, people change, events, music, culture, everything just shifts the normal into such a way where like, hey, you remember when we used to listen to this or watch this show, when it comes to like current events, etc., etc. Now, why am I saying all this? Well, it's 2022, and it's been over, I believe, a year and 2 years and a half when this whole, the vid-19 started, and people are still, they still get it every now and then. But now, when someone gets a positive, they call their work, they call their friends, like, "Hey, I got it. You want to get yourself checked out," and people don't get, as scared as before, which I guess is a push in the new direction, a good, a new normal. Obviously, people who are immunocompromised are still a it's still the fact that they think about whenever, oh, I got positive, no, that sucks. But everyone else is like, oh, you got it, cool. Am I gonna wear a mask? Not really. I'm all right. Now,
I mean, if you have it, I would suppose, and I hope that you would start wearing the mask. I mean, granted, you shouldn't be out and about with it, but
I I will say, like, when it came to my job, and like when I was entering this one spot, and someone said, "Hey, one of our employees got tested positive for the co, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, um, okay." And I continued my business as normal, like, cause
I
it
mean, were
was
you in direct contact with that person often,
not
or
with that person. No, it
okay?
wasn't with that person. All I'm saying is someone in the warehouse just tested positive, and this was like at the beginning of the week, right? That's when they tested positive. The next day, on a Tuesday, I guess, they that's when I walked in. They say, "Hey, someone tested positive." Well, you don't have it. It's gonna take time for that to develop, and then for that to develop, um, for me to get it, and then I'm just like, I I can live with that fact, and also not only that, I can also live with the fact that that if I do get it, I'll be just fine. I'm that at least stubborn and confident, I guess. If you could put like some sort of title to me, that I'll just be like, all right, if I get it, I get it. Like, it's no skin off my bone.
I
I
guess the
think
way I look at it
nothing's changed.
is like a good example is before this whole thing situation happened. I'm the kind of guy like I'm super anal about this, especially if I'm working in a close vicinity with you. I have the biggest pet peeve of look. I'm a firm believer of this idea, and maybe this is just me. I'm a firm believer of the idea that if you are sick, you shouldn't come to work. There is no good
Truth.
benefit that comes to it. The production's going to suck. You're going to get more people sick. I've always argued about this with every job that I ever got sick in. And I just say, hey, I'm sick. Give me a day or two off. And then later I'll be better and I can come back to work. I'll get a doctor's note, whatever you need for the paperwork. I totally get that. But I never understood the logic of like any employer to be like, oh, you're sick. Well, I need you to come in anyways. And it's like, okay, so you're going to get a sick person who's not going to be working at 100% capacity because they're fucking sick. That person could infect and get more people sick, and not only could be your clients but you're also your other coworkers. So instead of having one person call out, now you're gonna have probably more people call out all at once at the same time, and now you got to play that little fun game of management because you didn't want to have this one guy just to have 2 days off just so they could fully recover. That's just how I am, right? And I'm the kind of camp that's like, if I'm working with someone and I'll be like, a good example, right? When I was working at security, my coworker came in, fucked up, had the flu. Again, this is before the cove, and I could see it, and I'm like, look at him, like, dude, you clearly got something that's pretty rough. Why did you show up? He's like, oh, I didn't want to use my sick time. I'm like, but you have it, right? And he's like, yeah, then fucking use it. That's the purpose for it. You're not gonna get fired if you call out, even, and you could get call out and get better, and you get paid to do it. Like, you don't need to use your sick time for any bullshit reason. This is a legitimately good reason. So of course, like, I kept my distance from him. I washed my hands. I sanitated as much as we could because we shared this tiny office together. But of course, I got what he got, and that shit debilitated me for like 3 days straight. Like, it was like the worst I've ever felt. Like, the usual shindig of like getting sick, not having desire to eat, barely having the desire to drink water, like the whole 9 yards. I was completely out of it for 3 days, and and when I finally came back to work, I told him, "Thanks, asshole, because of you, your stupid, selfish mentality to come to work while you're sick. I got visibly sick, and now we had two people call out, and we had to get people out of the day shift to cover the night shift. So I just like I'm super fucking anal about that kind of shit because it's like, look, there's no reason you should come to work sick at all. I hate that from both the employee and the employer side. That should not be a thing forced upon anybody, in my opinion. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I get that, and I can like that point of view is definitely 100% valid. However, given the state that we live in, the big old US of A,
Right. Right of work state.
just
Yeah, that's the
we
immediate.
can look right. We can look at our British pals, across the pond,
Across the
and
pond.
they have a guaranteed amount of sick time, a guaranteed amount of like parental leave, a guaranteed time amount like of vacation, like these things are like are in law. These things are like, hey, everyone has these things, right?
Hmm.
It might suck for some employers who like are small business and like whatever, but like people acclimate to these laws and stuff. And that being said, I mean, here in America, we have that whole grind set mentality, and well, we want to use our sick days when we want a day to ourselves or a day to like a little vacation because how often does someone actually get sick? Well, not that often, and like honestly, I can't recall, in the past 10 years, like me getting sick more than 10 times. So if I needed to use sick days for anything, I'd use them. When I wanted to because they're probably not in most cases they're not stackable, they're not they don't roll over to the new year, and I can't get them paid out either. So you're not really guaranteed that safety net, but you know
Yeah, I think
or
that's
some
like a good
places.
reason. Like if you have a certain number of sick days or vacation days, like that was what something my old job used to tell us. Like, hey, you better fucking use it because if not, you're wasting your time and money. At that point, you could be literally get paid sitting on your ass and you haven't used your vacation time because it doesn't stack over. It doesn't roll over. So if you work 1 year,
Right.
you only get like a week off. But then if you work like more years, obviously you get stacked up. I had an older coworker who's been there for years. He had like days and days saved, or he could like take a whole month off if he felt like it, and he would just take it completely out of random. I'll just show up one day, he's not there, my supervisor didn't plan anybody else to be there with me, and I'm like, where's the guy? Like, oh, let me get back to you on that. And then the next day was like, oh, he's not gonna be back until the next month, and I'm like, well, shit, okay, good for him, I guess.
Yeah, and then also with the whole there with the whole do jobs even offer sick days? Some jobs, to my knowledge, still don't offer sick days, and even if they did, it won't. Some places don't give you like a full sick day. It'll be like so many hours. Like you can be out.
Hmm.
Uh, or like let's just say your sickness lasts 5 days, but you only have like technically like 16 hours of sick admissible leave where
So you have to
still
like
get
come
paid
into
for it.
work for a little bit and then you could then use it so that way you could still like have a job and everything.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. You're put in a bad spot, especially if you're not someone who knows how to like who likes to spend their money, or someone who can't really have that luxury of saving their money and needs to work in order to live. And they're in that situation, right? They're in the growing phase. They're in the climbing, the rising action of the anime, right? So like
I would
so
argue more,
so
or it's just like you're your boat, the fucking Deku from fucking My Hero Academia before you get your superpowers. So you're just like immediately fucked from the start, and you kind of have to like do it like that. That's
Mhm.
probably the only time you're gonna ever hear me quote My Hero Academia, aside from me wanting to smash the bunny girl. But that's about it. That's just like the best way to look at it. And actually, that kind of segues point into what happened with me. So I tweeted about this a while ago, but yes, I was tested positive for the Cove, and man, does that not play games. I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. I didn't lose my taste, thankfully, but man, I would not recommend getting the getting it.
You had the Ami.
Huh?
You had the Omni variant or
I
or
don't
the
know. I
Delta.
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure because it's so crazy to me because it's like I look back on it. So let me give the story what happened. So what happened was one day I'm working from home now, as you guys probably know. I think I brought that up in the last
Yeah.
episode. But
Yeah.
I'm working from home, so I'm great. Everything's chilling. Everything's good. One day I come out of my room after working, and my mom comes up to me and says, "Hey." your stepdad is tested positive for the cove. And I'm like, oh shit. And this wasn't the first like rodeo. This is like the second time he caught it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So what's the plan? Like, okay, he's gonna be sectioned off to the living room. Go eat in your room. Don't get into the living room as much as you can. Wear a mask. Everything. Wash your hands. I was super on top of that, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna be chilling. I'm gonna take it cool. I'm still working from home. I'm far away from him. Everything's gonna be
Right.
fine. Fast forward a little bit, the end of the week rolls over, and I remembered it was the week right before this the Florida SuperCon was happening, and I was super excited. I was so excited. And I just only recently started this job, and I told these people during the interview, I'm like, hey, look, I know I'm really excited to start working here, but I need that Friday off because I paid like over $100 to go to this convention, so I'm really excited. So this is the week before that convention. So the weekend rolls over. Friday went by just fine, and then Saturday rolled over, and I woke up a little bit of an itchy throat. I thought, that happens, I woke up, I immediately went grab some cornflakes, and I just shoved that shit down my mouth. I'm not one of those freaks that eats cereal without milk. And I thought, okay, my throat's a little bit itchy, but that's probably because like I ate some dry ass cornflakes without like getting a drop of water in me. So I thought, okay, maybe it's just an itchy throat. And then fast forward, I woke up like, oh, this itchy throat isn't going away. Damn. Okay, I might be sick. Okay, cool, whatever. So I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought, okay, maybe by Sunday I might be a little bit of a sore throat. I'll be fine. But now thinking back, like, oh shit, my stepdad got tested positive for COVID. And I'm thinking like, nah, I can't get the COVID. I got vaccinated. I'm super safe. I'm super careful. I'm perfectly fine. And fast forward, it's the weekend, so it's Saturday. I'm feeling a little shitty, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just test myself. So I did one of those like at home COVID tests, and I did like 3 of them. It was like one was for a different brand, and the other one was like a completely different brand. I never been good with this, but I did the first one just fine that Saturday when I wasn't like feeling like actually sick. I was like at the early steps, knowing that okay, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up sick, kind of feel. And I didn't test positive, but the other 2 tests showed up as like inconclusive. Like I don't know if I fucked it up or something like that. It just wouldn't give me a result for the life of me. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to waste this, and I don't want to like risk it. So I'm like, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna vibe. I'm gonna get better. Sunday rolled over. I felt fucking awful. I was sick. I was burning up. I didn't feel like eating. It was the whole 9 yards. It was awful. And I remember all I did was just sitting in my room in the complete darkness with the fan blowing in my face in my bed and just suffering. Like it was not fun. And I was all by myself at the house. My fan, and this is the fucked up part, right? So when I woke up and I told my mom, I called my mom and I said, hey, like I think I got the cove. I'm really sick. Just stay away from me. She already went off on this big trip because apparently my stepdad recovered. They had this whole weekend plan that they were going to go out to the beach, and my mom calls, and I called my mom and like, yeah, I got the cove. What do I do? And she's like, oh, well, you probably got it. And he's like, why? He's like, well, because I tested positive for the cove. And I'm like, okay, so you're coming back? He's like, no, I'm just going to chill at the hotel room. And I'm like, why would you do that? Okay, whatever, that's her decision, not mine. My immediate thought wouldn't be go stay somewhere else with the thing, but whatever, that's what she wanted to do, not my fucking call. But as for me, I felt fucking awful. I was just completely shit. My throat felt like a rubber hose that's been let out into the sun all day and been cut up by like a bunch of knives and shit. It was like not good at all. I was having like a horrible coughing fit for like days. Like it was just really, really bad. So immediately I'm freaking out, right? So I just started this new job, and look, I'm not gonna cut it through you guys bullshit. Look, I like my job, I really do. I think working from home is the fucking greatest thing ever, and I wouldn't take it up for anything. But the job I'm doing right now is basically a call center. I won't go into super details, but essentially I take like hundreds of calls a day, right? And I wouldn't mind it too much. To me, I look at like shitty jobs like that and be like, well, at least I'm at the comfort of my home. I'm working with my pajama pants on. I get to drink whatever the fuck I want. I have my like phone right next to me playing like a Twitch stream or something in the background, to keep me like visually entertained and stuff. But I've worked in the call center. I've been in the trenches, and I know that these jobs aren't super giving a shit about like your health or anything. They're not really gonna care. Like I remember like one time when I worked at my first call center job, I remember I was telling them like, hey, I think I'm gonna like call out sick. I feel like shit. Like, oh, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? Well, you don't have PTO. And I'm like, wait, you guys don't have a separate thing for sick times? Like, no, you have to use PTO for it. And I'm like, yeah. But like,
That's a
but that's
that's
really
a
fucking stupid. That's 2 completely different things. Paid time off is something I have to plan ahead of time to even use it. I can't just use it. I have to fucking plan for it. You can't like use PTO at any other job aside from there to use it. Like if I want to use PTO at my last security job, I had to go up to my boss and say, hey, I want to use PTO from this time to that time because I have to let you know that I'm going to be away from those days. And sick time was completely different. Like you had two resources you could use. So immediately I'm freaking out. I'm panicking. I'm stressing the fuck out because I'm calling up my job and I'm telling them like, hey man, like I wasn't feeling good. I have the cove, and their immediate knee jerk reaction is like, well, sir, you have these points, and if you take too many days off, you might have to like, be terminated and da 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 da. And I'm like, well, that's not a good fucking sign. I don't want to like deal with being sick and also risking if I'm gonna be on unemployment soon. So I'm freaking out, and I don't trust these people. I'm gonna be upfront with you. I never trust any call center at any moment when they tell me that like, oh yeah, we really want to make sure you're not going to get fired or anything, because fuck it, you guys this is a super replaceable job at the end of the day, right? So
Right.
between like everything going on, between me feeling like shit, my brain was underwater, my coughing fits, my sore throat, my barely of an appetite, and mind you, I'm still quarantined in my room at this point, so I couldn't even go out and get anything to eat, and I wasn't going to go put myself or anybody else in danger just because I'm going to be a selfish asshole and do it. Like, of course I'm going to tell people like, hey, if you're at the house, can you get me something? Or hey, can you bring me something? And it was like really aggravating because it's like, damn, dude, I don't want to go. I'm probably gonna go without a job soon. I don't want to spend all my money through fucking Grubhub or some shit. So I'm like, well, damn, I don't know how to cook either. So I have to like figure out what I'm gonna do. So hella stressful, really fucking annoying. And Marcos, you were telling me that like, oh yeah, you probably can't work at a job like that if your throat's that fucked up. Well, here's the fucked up part, right? So I had to like, when I call up this job and I'm telling them like, hey, I'm sick, I have COVID, you don't call like, in any other job, you just call your supervisor and be like, hey, I have COVID, see you in a week. Okay, good luck, dude. Have a good day. Pray everything gets better. All right, cool. But this job, you got to call an attendance line to say that you're not coming into work. And I have to specify with them saying, look, I'm not coming in this because I have a sniffles or some shit. I have COVID and I feel like utter garbage. Like I can't work. Like it physically hurts to talk too much. Now I'm perfectly fine, as you could clearly tell. But I remember
Well, this is back to the new normal comment that I made before, and 2 years ago, you would say that, and like it's like, all right, listen, you gotta go, at least for most jobs, and now it's more of like a new normal. You're like, all right, listen, it's not that bad.
But that's the
Either
thing though, man, because like in my experience, like I don't trust any call center job saying like, okay, just get better, we'll have a job before you, because I've seen people get fired over maternity leave or something happened to them, and it's just like, hey, look, I don't have the sick time because I started this job like a couple months ago. Like, of course I'm not gonna have any of these resources. Like, cut me a fucking break. I'm not trying to get money out of you guys. I'm just trying to make sure I have a job when I come back after dealing with this shit. So after 2 days of missing out work on Monday and Tuesday, I remembered on like Wednesday, I remember I woke up and I was saying like, God, I feel awful, but I need to clock in today, because if I don't clock in, I'm probably going to lose my job. Because again, I don't trust these people, because I know that, because the attendance people didn't care. Like when I told the attendance people like, look, I got COVID, I feel like shit, I can't work, their immediate answer is like, well, sir, you're working from home, so you're not immediately in danger. Like, yeah, but I'm taking like over hundreds of calls every single second. Like it is constantly a vocal cord exercise every day at work, and I shouldn't be on the phones like this. So, and mind you, at that point, like I'm still waiting for my doctor to call me back and say like, all right, what do we got to do, because you just got tested positive for COVID, like you're a high risk person, so we have to make sure that like, we take the proper channels. So I remember I came to work one day, and I remember I barely was able to keep awake and like feeling like utter garbage. I took like 4 calls in, and my throat was just completely gone. Like my voice was gone. I had to mute every other minute because I was just going through a coughing fit over and over. It was not a good time. I remember I called like one of the supervisors on like the Teams chat. I'm like, look, listen, I hate to do this, but like I need to speak to someone like right now. This is something really important. I'm like, okay, cool, sir. Just go on like on break or not on break, on like some aux or some shit like that, so you could talk to me. So I tell him the situation. Look, I have COVID. I don't know if they told you this. I feel like shit. My doctor's about to call me in an hour. I need to take this call. This is super important. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna have a job by the end of this week, but I need to know, what do I got to do? And he's like, okay, just be patient. Just do what you got to do. So eventually, like, I got a hold of my supervisor. She's really cool. I get along with her really great. She got me on my back on this situation. I said, look, I'm about to call my doctor. My doctor calls me and he says, get off the phones. Don't get on work. Lay in bed, drink water, don't do fucking anything. You should not be at work right now. Like, I call up my supervisor, like, look, this is what my doctor said. I can't do this. I'm gonna have to call out for the rest of the week. So that happened. That was said and done. I was already like determined into believe. And the really frustrating part about this, Marcos, that I didn't add was that like when you call like these people and you say like, hey, how do I provide paperwork that I have COVID and I need an excuse and I have a doctor's note telling me I can't be at work. You don't email like your supervisor. You got to email like an insurance company for the company you're working for and provide them the paperwork for them to deal with. And I'm already sick. My throat is shot. I barely could recognize what time of day it is at this point, and I'm like
Right.
dealing with like 5, 6, 7 different phone calls just to figure out. Listen, am I gonna have a job by the end of this shit, or am I gonna have to be looking for another job after I'm done with this thing? Because it was really aggravating because I couldn't trust him. I couldn't trust any of these fucking jobs. And at that point, by like Thursday, I eventually just threw up my hands and said, fuck it. I did everything I could. If I have a job, great. If I don't, I'm not going to worry about it. Because clearly the stress was not helping me. Because the stress, like I'll be feeling a little bit better. Then I start stressing about the job situation. And then I'll be like, all right, fuck it. Like I'm fucked. Like, okay, fuck it. You know what? Screw it. That's fine. I got money. I'll penny pinch as much as I can until I get into the job. But I'm not gonna like take these people's word for it. But after everything was said and done, I think I fully recovered by Monday. And it really sucked too. So remember that convention thing I brought up before? Yeah, quick tangent real quick. I got really peeved because I was super excited to go to this 3-day convention. I asked for the days off. I was super excited, but I got COVID. And you know what? I've accepted it. Like, you know what? I'm not going to go even if I recover because I'm not going to put myself after getting really fucking sick with the cove. I'm not going to go get convention sickness because everybody gets it. I think everybody could like safely agree. Like at one point, eventually we go to a 3-day convention, you're going to catch something. You're probably going to catch a flu. You're probably going to.
Never had that.
I did. Every convention I've ever been to, I always get like a little bit sick. It happens. You're probably like super exhausted or maybe you might have caught something because some asshole
Yeah,
came with a
that
cold
sounds normal.
and you rub up
Yeah.
against them. Not like bedridden sick, but you're going to feel a little shitty afterwards, you know?
Right, right,
It's
right.
it's what me and your brother always call like con fever or something. Like you're just gonna feel like shit for the following day, but who cares, right?
Gotta build the immune system, bro. One way or another.
I mean, like yeah, but you can only fight so many fucking germs and shit that a bunch of basement dwellers you rub up against whenever you're walking around the convention center. It's just the nature of things, man.
Yeah.
It's a statistic nightmare at that point. You only could take as much fucking vitamin C or your vitamins until like protect you or whatever you want. But anyways, so eventually I just said, you know what, fuck it, take the L. I feel like shit. I gotta focus on getting better. So I just like laid in bed all day. I watched a lot of a lot of TV. I actually started watching The Boys. I finally got it to season 2, and it is fucking tastic. I'm really, really, really
It is
enjoying.
pretty good.
It's great. Like it's really good. Like I'll tell you one thing though. I may not use Amazon Prime Video often, but so far going off of Invincible and The Boys, I think their originals are pretty good. At least from what I've
They
seen.
are.
I
I prefer season 1 over season 2, but I prefer the season 2 finale of The Boys. I still haven't watched season 3 yet. I'm probably gonna hold off on that until I can watch it with the person I originally watched The Boys with.
Is the
Uh,
show officially done? Because I always get confused when they say like all episodes available. That usually means like the show's done, right?
I'm not aware if all the episodes are out yet or not.
Okay.
But I think that might be the case because I haven't seen any more.
Because I know they're making a
Uh,
spin-off. They made another animated spin-off and all that jazz. But like I was a little confused because I was like, wait,
It wasn't anime. It wasn't a spin-off per se. Well, technically the show is a spin-off of the original source because it doesn't like it's not a one-to-one, like Invincible is. Invincible is basically an almost identical copy of its comic counterpart. For the most part, there's some small.
I mean, like
details
how specific are we talking about? Like a good example was I was watching a video about people comparing the Harry Potter books and movies, and like man, I saw the one where they did for Chamber of Secrets, and like man, they nerfed the shit out of
They
Ron's
did.
character in
They
that
nerfed a lot,
book, like
yeah.
in that movie. Holy shit, like Ron was way more interesting of a character in the book than he was in the movie. I don't know. I hated what they did with him because I was like, man, Ron seems like a really smart guy, and then when you put in perspective, like, well, yeah, he has like wizard family, his father's in the ministry, so he would know all this shit. Why does Hermione know all this crap? But whatever. Like that's what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that The Boys is going to
Right.
be a little bit different, but does it follow the key plot of the comic?
Yes, but there is parts that from season I believe 1 it isn't quite the same. So we remember Huey, right? Huey, the main character of
Mhm.
the one of the main characters of the series.
Try
Well,
to keep the
um
spoilers very light because I've been
well this
spoiled.
is literally Right, I get it. This is an episode one thing, something that happens at literally volume one, of
The comic.
uh, of the comic, also happened in the first episode
Amazon
of the
show.
show,
Hmm.
where a specific important person to Huey, ends up, you know, dying.
Hmm.
But how they went at it was different. So in the show, Huey was in the going out of work. He was strolling along the city with this person, and then this person just dies. In the comics, he was at a carnival. Huey looks, a whole lot different. He looks a lot more like a
A drug dealer.
uh, basically, almost like like he's done meth a couple times. Nothing to write home about. Which I think, fun fact, I don't think you can truly overdose on meth. Your body can't metabolize all that meth at once. All it will do is give you a longer high. It's like marijuana, where you can't really well, you could technically OD on marijuana. You just need an inhuman amount of like THC in your system. Like I'm talking about like almost a body weight's worth of THC in your system to actually be lethal.
Hmm.
And that's impossible to do so in the time frame of you ingesting things in the time frame for it to take to be lethal. But I digress. But he looks like a meth head, and well and then Butcher looks like he looks like Superman. Or
Ironically, yeah,
Batman.
yeah. The
Yeah,
art,
like
the art of the boys comic is really weird. Some people say it looks bad. I think it's supposed to be like a really obscure take of like classic superheroes, like
yeah.
60s look and shit. But I see like people who've watched the show read the comic like, man, this art looks fucking awful. But it's like, I think that's the point. I think that's the idea. It's supposed to be like this really weird, twisted look of the comic.
Basically.
But yeah, I really like the look of the show though. I really dig for it, and it really clearly shows like it's a very high budget production compared for an but for an Amazon show. But I think that's like one of the benefits of an Amazon with like a streaming show is that I feel like you have a lot more time to like plan it out and work it out and shoot for a lot more episodes. But not to put like other stuff down. Like I started watching The Sopranos a couple months back, but I haven't kept up to it, which sucks because one of the other actors passed away not that long ago. What a shame. I really like.
So many memes of the. I've been seeing a lot of memes from The Sopranos because like it's been getting popular again, I guess, in meme culture, and I've been
Unfortunately,
seeing.
though, the Sopranos footage I see is like, God, I hate this style of content so much because it's like, congratulations, you guys completely missed the point. The Sigma male thing, man. Tony Soprano's such a Sigma male. What an alpha! And it's like, you guys are not getting it. He's a piece of shit of a character. You're not supposed to look up to him. Just because you
The
put the
only
generic rave music in the background doesn't mean he's like, wow, what a badass.
the only Sigma male posting I see a lot of when it comes to like being a Sigma male is the uh damn, what was his name from Peaky Blinders?
Oh yeah, I know. I haven't seen the show, but I've seen so many goddamn clips of it. But yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen the first episode, and I could tell you, I was impressed with the first episode because it showed you the brutality of coming home after the Great War, which was World War I,
Yeah.
and
And
how
before like PTSD was like documented and shit, it's like, oh, what's that dude? You got shell shock. Good luck, pussy. Go fight.
right, and like everyone was like treating these people who had PTSD, who had like these violent outbursts, quite literally a violent outburst,
Hmm.
running into bars, crashing everything that was in front of them because they thought they were still in that situation.
Right.
And it's such a heartbreaking thing. Even like even in the show, they showed you like people who know what they're going through because they lived the same thing this person lived through, and then they're afflicted with this mental curse. And the Thomas, I believe, is the main character that follows the this whole Sigma male thing, right? Where it's he wasn't a regular petty like infantryman. He had some sort of ranks on him. He had some sort of like chevrons or bars on him where he led a group of people. I think in our terms it would be equivalent to like a sergeant. I'm not sure, maybe a first sergeant. I'm not aware of the of the Scottish or the British ranking systems. However, he understood that his men, the ones with shell shock or PTSD, they were going through some stuff, and he was so understanding. I'm like, damn, dude, they're doing this so darn well. And the first episode was really really good. It really set precedents on like where we're at, what's happening, what world we're living in, the current event of the world, and then the local movements going on. And it was a really good first episode. I know there's like what like seasons or stuff, and it's quite interesting that they're taking a different approach with this mafia style.
Plus the fact that it's
This
in the UK and everything kind of like shakes it up a
right,
little.
right. Not only that, but like it's definitely one of those things where like, hey, we're used to the whole the Al Capone with the with the
The
alcohols
Godfather,
or
yeah.
right. So like these are the things like we know of the whole New Yorker, the New York thing, the Italians or whatever, and then this is a new spin on the mafioso types. That's why I always like the Yakuza stuff, right? Not the
Hmm.
games themselves, even though the games are like quite awesome. Um, but when it comes to like the Yakuza, when it comes to like things that they did, things that led them to have the certain traditions they did, certain power, rise and fall of the Yakuza throughout time to current events, stuff like that. I'm just like this is quite interesting that like a mob boss or a mob family were able to grab a hold onto the government or certain politicians or whatever or certain areas. It's quite interesting. But yeah, the whole Sigma male thing, I as cringy as I may find it, some of those videos go hard. Like they do they choose the best the best scenes, the best like camera angles. Those are pretty good.
Right,
I will
but
say
of
that.
course that's if you like be picky and choosy and be like, oh yeah, that totally. This Tony guy's a real Sigma. And he's like, oh, he's also a cheating asshole. Oh, got it. Yep, real Sigma shit, real alpha shit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I found this a bit cringe, but some guys called me Sigma, and I'm just like, at the time, I only seen memes of it. I didn't know exactly what it was.
Hmm.
Excuse me, and I didn't really quite care for what exactly it was. It's almost like people like really really focusing on like me being alpha, like someone being alpha or someone being beta. I'm like, I mean, if you're using those words like unironically, I just think less of you.
I mean, like
It's like
it's not like we're like one of those like $1 billion billion podcasts of men just being like, hey, aren't we great? Aren't we just amazing? Fuck
right.
women. We just fuck them, right? And it's just like, oh
I yeah.
God, I hate this. Is so stupid. It is the same thing. Let's invite a woman over and tell her how wrong she. I'm just like, God, you people, like it's like literally what I'd like to describe is like people make that kind of content, the kind of people that like when they're in the playground and they're all playing superheroes and shit. One just says, "Oh, I'm the Superman." I'm like, God, fuck you, Timmy. Fuck you, Timmy.
Yeah.
God damn it.
But like I was called a Sigma, and I'm like, what the hell's a Sigma? It's like, oh, it's like a better version of an Alpha. I was like, what's that supposed to mean? It's like,
But
oh,
that's so
like
stupid. It's just like, oh, Alpha,
wait,
no more Alpha. Now we're Sigma.
right? So this is what they told me, right? And okay, I have to. I hate to say this, but these people were, um, incels, and
Ugh.
uh, I listen. I'm convinced that most incels have a form of autism, and that's the heartbreaking part because I've known plenty of people with autism. I do my best to hang out with them, to be friends with them, because it is a difficult thing where most of the world thinks that if you have one bad social cue because you read a face wrong or you read something wrong and then you act a certain way, people just like brand you as like a leopard. And I'm like, that's not quite fair. You're only adding on fuel to the self-hurting fire that they produce in their head, because once they go home, every now and then we have those moments where like, dang, I remember when I was this age and I did this. That's so embarrassing. For them, it's like cranked up to 11, and it's just a whole lot worse for them. So like, a lot of incels, I at least in my personal experience, tend to be autistic, and it's heartbreaking because like you try to tell them what to do and what to say, and like, they can't really go out on their own and learn social cues from failing over and over again because it just eats away at them. But they called me a Sigma. And it goes, oh, Sigma is someone who's an alpha but doesn't care that they're an alpha or beta or not. I'm like, that just sounds like someone, a regular person, doesn't care about like labels too much. And they just went into it. I'm like, I just look at it as a meme, guys. Don't take it too seriously. And
I think what it also is that people indoctrinate them in a sort of way. It's like, hey, the reason why like you're not getting women is because XYZ reason, and it's not your fault or this and that, and you can't do absolutely anything about it. And it's just like, I forgot who said this quote, but some people, there was a line that someone said that if you're alone with no one, with nothing but your problems, you probably are the problem.
Dang, that's kind of rest in peace those who have cancer.
Well, more like that. You can't make
All
fucking
alone.
friends.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I tell them. But that's the hard part with some people who are incel and autistic, right? That they get what you're saying when you get them at a normal level, at a low emotional level, relatively low emotional level for them, and they can understand logically, they can understand things. And then they'll ask questions like, "Hey, but like, what about this and that?" And they'll be able to understand it. But then, for lack of a better phrase, when they get in their fifis and that causes them to go monkey mode on the inside, they just forget everything you talked about and they go back to square one. And that's the frustrating part because obviously I'm not a professional in any mental way, a mental professional in any way. I can't really help them. I can just only guide them in certain ways that I can see fit. That's relatively sane to do so. But like these people, like just will by these people I mean autistic people on the spectrum. They just have those moments where like they just blank out and they just go monkey, and it's sad because then they dig themselves into a deeper hole. And all that being said, when it comes to the incels doing what they got to do, it's kind of cringe, especially how prominent they are in online circles, and then they go into
No, it's an echo
echo
chamber.
chambers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just this idea. It's like, yep, this is it. This is the only reason. It's like, hey guys, maybe take a perspective out. Maybe look at bettering yourself what you can. Rather than just giving up and just saying, oh, that's it. That's it's the women's fault. It's this and that. Like, hey man, maybe build some self confidence to the point where you don't have to worry about it. Like
Okay.
I
Right.
can't.
Right.
I don't
I
like
get
that
that.
idea. Where it's just like, oh, I can't. I'm failing at this social issue, so it is clearly the other person's fault. Like, no, no, it's a two-party issue. Like, you have to understand that maybe you're just coming off kind of weird. Some people, like, it's really stupid to me. Where it's like, I don't know if you remember that douchebag who walked around with the camera and harassing those women, and he's a fucking loser incel, and he got his ass kicked and he got arrested for it. But he would harass these women, and then I'll be like, look, guys, this is who you look up to. Yeah, no wonder you guys can't get fucking friends. Look at this shit. This is who you look up to.
Right. Okay. You've obviously played the Insomniac 2018 Spider-Man, right?
Yes, multiple times.
Okay. And this is gonna be a little cringe for me to say this because I'm connecting the two, because this is exactly what happened when I first played this game. Remember when Doctor Octavius was building had the arm for this on this one dude he had a robotic arm on this one dude. Then Oscorp came in, and Norman Osborn, comes in, and he shuts down the whole thing and confiscates all of the equipment that Octavius had.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All right. Then he's obviously mad. He's angry, but then he calms down and he goes, "All right, Peter. I'm sorry to see me be angry. Whatever. Right? Go on. Right." Then as time goes on, Octavius going crazier and crazier into his whole, I'm going into like this, like, forget about regaining your arm or regaining a lost limb. We're going to give you something better than a limb that you lost.
Right.
Almost like some Deus Ex nonsense, right? But
Yeah, like
then,
RoboCop. It's like, yeah, we could rebuild them, but make them better, essentially.
right. So that being said, there's a point where Octavius finally has his welding suit on, his welding goggles on. He tells you, "Hey, check out how great these arms are. Check out this tablet." And then Peter finds all these messed up like things that are going wrong, and he can't fix them all because whenever he fixes one, 10 more pop out. So he tells him, "Doc, you gotta cut this, man." He goes, "No, we can change it. Whatever, we can do everything. We can build the new future." And he's getting to his feelings, and then Peter brings him down to a human level again. He goes, "Listen, man, I care for you, and you care for this world. I want us to do this. And he goes, "You're right, Peter. Go home. I'll clean up here. I'll take this off and I'll clean up here." And Peter's like, "All right, I trust you. I'm out here." Then I guess fortunately for the narrative plot, but unfortunately for everyone else, he sees the TV and then he sees Norman Osborn getting all this good credit for like defeating Mr. Lee, Mr. Negative, and then he gets angry again.
Mhm.
When I watch that, I'm like, this is. I pause for a bit. I'm like, this is literally exactly the autistic flare that happens when you get into your emotions and you literally just go with your feelings, and it's just like, ugh. I get what you're saying when it comes to like, hey, you got to do this, this, and that. Like I've said that same advice to these people who are not socially adept, but like sometimes it's hard for them. Some guys can relate to this podcast. Even some girls can relate to with this podcast, where you are talking to an attractive person, you lose like 20 IQ points, because you're just like in awe or such. But like if you just don't care about some people, you just don't have that debuff when you're talking to an attractive person. It sucks, but it is what it is. But that's our whole loop from like the beginning of us talking about the Cove to Amazon, Invincible, and the boys.
And then we
to now
start
this,
talking
the
about
whole six.
insult them again, and we just
There you
went
go.
off to that tangent. But yeah, I guess I should just finish off that original part we were talking about. So yeah, I got better eventually over the weekend. I want to say like by Sunday I was like fully recovered. I still have like a bit of a coughing fit here and there, but I was really bummed because like I get tested on Sunday. I felt better. I was tested negative. I was like, oh, thank God, that's done and over with. I don't risk anybody else getting sick.
Right.
Everyone else got recovered just fine. Everybody got better. I got better, but I was really bummed out that I really couldn't go to the convention because I was so excited. But at the
Yeah.
time, I was kind of peeved too because this was the first time this ever happened to me. Like every convention I ever went to, it's always been like, okay, you buy the tickets early, you just go to Will Call and you pick up your tickets, and then you're good to go for the rest of the weekend, right? But this
Right.
convention did something different. They said like, oh, if you order your tickets before this day, we'll mail you the tickets. Now, granted, I ordered these tickets like months before, and I'm like, hey, I was asking you guys like, hey, you guys gonna go? Because I don't know if I want to spend the 3 days if you guys aren't gonna go, but you guys are telling me like, oh, I'll get back to you, and I'll get back, and then I'll probably just wait through Will Call, and I'm like, yeah, but like, why wait at Will Call and then pay for more expensive tickets at that point? But I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to go all 3 days. I'm gonna have my fun. I'm gonna order my tickets. So I ordered my tickets. I kind of forgot about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm at my house. I'm not the one who usually gets the mail because I wake up usually after everybody's home, and like I just assumed everybody got the mail. So I wasn't really checking it every day. I thought like, okay, the tickets will go out probably sometime in June, around the time the convention comes out. So I ordered my tickets. I forgot about it, and then I just kind of like twiddled my thumbs a bit, like, okay, so I should probably check on those tickets by the time the convention comes around. But obviously, with the Cove, I was like, hey, I'm not gonna go. Fuck that. My immune system's already been shot. I'm not gonna put myself in that risk. And
Right.
besides, if assuming that I lose my job, why bother paying money? Already going down the drain, missing 2 days, and going to a third day, having to drive all the way to the convention center, having to pay for parking because there's no way in hell I'm gonna find free parking in that area. And I thought to myself, you know what? Why should I go now? Like, it's already a money pit. None of my friends are going. I already offered you guys the ticket anyway to just say, hey, do you guys just want to take my ticket and just go have fun with me? I mean, like, it sucks I had to lose my money, but at least someone will have fun for it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
eventually, Sunday rolled over, and I'm like, you know what? I just got better. My immune system is recovering. I'm not gonna go. But what was really annoying was that like I never got my tickets in the mail, so I started like messaging the convention center. I'm like, yo, like, what do I do? Like, I never got my ticket in the mail. You guys never sent it to me or something, or got lost in the mail. I don't know. They didn't have like a tracking number or anything because they didn't pay for the more expensive track shipping. But I'm like, well, why the fuck do I want to expedite the shipping? Like, the convention's like months away. I'm not gonna pay for more expensive shipping, right? So eventually, like I got a hold that, oh, they said like, hey, and this is before I got the code. They said like, oh, if you show up 1 week before the convention, we'll give you your ticket. And I'm like, oh, great. So I message these people like, hey, I never got my ticket in the mail. Can I go pick it up? Like, well, no, sir, because you order your tickets online. You in the mail. You gotta wait until the tickets come in the mail. You can't pick it up the week beforehand. And I'm like, why? That's so fucking stupid. Like, why does
Yeah.
it matter at that point? I'm gonna have to go up to Will Call anyways if I don't get the tickets anyways. Like, what are you guys gonna do? You guys are just terminate the other ticket at that point. And it was so aggravating, so frustrating. Where I'm just like, man, fuck it. I was just gonna be like, fuck it, I'll wait through will call. I'll deal with it on Friday morning. I'll get my ticket, and it's fine. I don't mind waiting through will call on a Friday because most people, especially if you go in the convention like super early, um, will call lines aren't super long, but it's just when you go on Saturday in the afternoon, especially, that's when like the line is like way longer because that's when like most people show up is on a Saturday, and I was gonna go all 3 days, so. Yeah, that really sucked. I was so bummed. I was like, man, I was so excited to go to that convention, but whatever, at least I didn't waste more money is the best way to look at it. I didn't do it, but at least now I'm back. I feel better. I'm no longer having a coughing fit. I fully recovered. I'm back to work so far. Everything's good to go. And yeah, that's essentially what's been going on. Because like I said, while I was sick, I was completely disconnected from everything. I just laid in bed all day, watched TV, and just completely forgot about everything. And that's why we didn't do the episode last week, because I couldn't. I physically couldn't. Like, I was like, guys, I could barely talk to you guys. I could barely record a podcast episode. But now, as you can see by my inflection, I sound perfectly fine now.
When I had the vid, I think in like February or something of like last year, um, I my mother, I think she was the one who gave it to us. Like, we don't even know who gave it to who at this point, but who cares? But she went through similar to what you were going through. The aches, the pains for a couple days because it was like a fever. But my brother and I, when we got it, we were just chilling. We didn't feel any worse. We just felt the same.
Hmm.
The only difference was we lost our taste and our scent. And I'll tell you what, the COVID diet definitely is real. I had no urge to eat because, like, what's the point? It all tastes the same. It all tastes like nothing. If I drink something, it's gonna
But
taste
did
like
you like
water.
feel hunger? Like, that's my question. Because when I
No,
get
no, no.
like
Of course, of
when I get
course.
like really sick, I don't feel like eating at all. Like, I have to force myself to eat one single meal.
Even when I do get like really, really, really sick, I still feel hunger. Although my appetite might not be like at normal, I would still eat. If not, I would force myself to eat something because I know my body needs fuel in order to fight whatever it needs to fight. Especially if I'm going to take vitamins while I'm sick, I need to take something in order to make everything else work better for my body. Because you just can't expect your body to do everything if you're not fueling it, even if you have no appetite.
Hmm.
Um,
Right. That's why I force
uh,
myself to eat, because it's like if I don't eat, like, I'm just gonna get really sick. Or I mean, I'm not
right,
really sick, but I'm also not gonna recover any faster at that
of
point. That's why
course,
they tell you like
of
drink
course.
plenty of water, but I'll be like barely having the desire to drink water, but I would just force it.
That all being said, when I had the vid, I didn't feel any worse. Like, my appetite was still the same. I just,
But you didn't
like,
feel like any fever, no nothing. You just found out, oh shit, I'm just
no.
positive. Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
like I
positive,
said.
and yeah.
I felt like utter garbage. Like, I just thought, okay, I just got really sick. I didn't think it was the vid until I'm like, okay, I have to get tested because that could be it. And then that's what it actually was, is that I got the vid really badly, and then it just completely fucked me up. Like I said, well, my mom, when she got it, she felt sick for maybe like a day, but she was completely fine. And even when she was still positive and still being at the house and everything, like, she felt perfectly fine.
Right. The only reason why I ate less is because I would still have hunger, but I'd be like, what's the point of eating? So, like, I basically made myself have what was it, less of an appetite. Which, speaking of, ever since the vid, the cove, I've learned to like curb my what's the word, my cravings with the whole. And I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge for some people, but for me, I didn't like quite grasp it until like after the fact. But like, whenever I crave something, I would never say no to that craving. So let's just say I'm on a diet and I'm craving chocolate, right? Um, and I know where I can get chocolate, I know where I can get it. But if I say no, that itch is still there, right? But when after the cove and the whole experience, which honestly it took me a while to get my taste back compared to my everyone else who had it. Ironically enough, the one who was the most immunocompromised in my household, he got it for like a day or two, and then his taste came back, everything else came back, and he felt like, and he didn't feel bad at all. He felt normal. He just lost his senses, and then they came back a day or two later. It took me like a week and a half to get it. My brother it took him like 5 days to get it back, and yeah. But either way, it was funny. But like, the what I learned was, if you tell yourself whenever you have cravings that, oh, I'll just get that later, right? Like you're saying yes to it, but later. I guess for me, I sort of trick my brain and saying I'm saying yes, and it gets satisfied with that information, but
Because you
later when
know
it
at some
comes,
point like I'm gonna get it, and so your brain kind of forgets about it, and then you just never get
kind of,
it.
yeah, right. You're like I just like I say later, and that just makes it so much better, because like I don't feed into the whole craving things, because I essentially just say, yeah, I could do it later, or later this, later that. It's almost like procrastination in a positive light, I guess, because I could just say, yeah, sure, but like, let's wait until we do this or that later. Like, it's sort of like that. It's like, yeah, I'll wait to do that research paper or that project or whatever later. Like, I have plenty of time. I can do it. I can do it later. And then, well, this time there's no light time limit for this cravings. Like the other day, I was craving like really really greasy chicken sandwiches from churches, and I'm just like, oh, I'll get it later. And every day would pass by it, but like I would always say, oh, I'll just do it later. Like it'd always be like in passing. So like I guess that's one positive experience my Cove experience gave me, giving me that not I guess that willpower, the lack of willpower, I guess, to just say later instead of
Well,
no.
at least my positive experience was that, of course, because like I said, I don't cook. Immediately, I was like, at the hands of my sister, who just kind of annoying about it. Where I was like, "Hey, can you like get me something to eat? Because like I don't know how to cook, and I don't want to be fucking around in the kitchen and shit, like trying to make something where I could potentially like infect other people." So it was like really aggravating. But one point, my sister said, "Hey, I'm gonna get Taco Bell. What do you want?" And I'm gonna be upfront, guys. Up to this point in my life, I never had Taco Bell ever. But I said, you know what?
Cringe.
Fuck it. I'm not gonna have to pay for it, and my sister's offering, and I'm probably never gonna get Taco Bell on my own. I asked if I could get Taco Bell. I got a steak quesadilla and some tacos, and I tried it for the first time in my life, and it's so fucking good. I have never tried Taco Bell up to that point, but I finally tried the Doritos Crunch Wrap, whatever the fucking Doritos tacos, and those are really fucking good. It really kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, this is like really good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I finally tried Taco Bell, so at least that's like one of the positives of this experience. Like, oh, cool, I was willing to try something different, and now I like Taco Bell.
Did you get the runs that some people have
Oh yeah,
after eating Taco Bell?
I was shitting my brains out. Like it was not fun at all. I was like,
I've never had that problem, dude. Ever after eating Taco Bell. I just never understood it. Like I can understand
I mean,
why
I
it
always get the
happens.
runs. Like it's normal for me at this point. It's like, oh yeah,
Mm.
I'm just shitting a lot. Like that's just what I do.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I go multiple times a day, but not because of Taco Bell. It's just naturally what I do.
Uh,
The only time I ever like go to the bathroom and like I really have to go because of something I ate is usually the day after,
mm-hmm.
because I ate something greasy or very fatty. So like I would eat steak, a good amount of steak, or a good amount of wings, and that just makes it so much more what's the word, interesting. But yeah,
That's exactly what
it's one of
happened
those
with me.
things.
I ate like Burger King the night before. I went to bed like normal. I woke up, went to the doctor, and then I left at the doctor's appointment. I'm chilling in my car, and I was like, "Oh man, my stomach hurts." Like, okay, well, no biggie. I'm gonna grab some food, and then I'm gonna go eat, take a shower, anyways. And by the time I got home with my food, I like took like 10 minutes in the bathroom, and I'm just like, it just won't stop. Why? I'm about to eat. This is bullshit.
Yeah, and one of those things is that when it comes to Taco Bell, it's one of those places. At least in my fat experience, I stopped caring about fast food overall. I don't really care for um, McDonald's, Burger King. Like I don't eat that. The only two fast food places that I would not stop out, like I would love to keep eating, is Taco Bell and Subway. Taco Bell because, well, enough said. Taco Bell's really freaking good. It's really freaking great. And lastly, when it comes to Subway, I I just I just always love the Italian BMT. I just can't go around it. It's such a great sandwich. No matter how I build it, I just keep going back to it. All that being said, I don't think I can ever I easily quit Taco Bell as easily as I can quit what do you call this, Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, etc., etc., etc. However, I will say this. I will say this. If Burger King brings back the spicy Whopper, I would eat that every day because it's really that good. I'm not sure if you ever had it, but I
Never.
highly recommend it.
Never had it. Um, no, to me, I'm just I mean, I'm a burger guy. This is always what my favorite meal is. Just like burgers. That's just what I went to. But when you have someone who has to bring you food and they don't particularly like the place and they don't want you to eat that shit every day, it's kind of annoying
Right.
because it's like, well, if you can't bring me this, can you bring me something else to eat? Because like I said, I have the cove. I don't want to get anybody else sick. I'm not a selfish asshole. I'm not gonna walk around with just a mask and say, oh, this is good enough. Like, no, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and isolating myself from everybody else. The only time I left was to, um, well, I think it was to only get my no, not to get my medication. I think I only left one time to get something to eat, and that was like off the distance and everything. Like I was nowhere near anybody to get the food, but that was like the only time I ever left my house in the entire week. I just was stuck in my room in these four walls the entire day. And yeah, it was kind of crazy. It doesn't help either that like my room is completely blocked off. I don't get sunlight and shit. So like I didn't know what time of day it was, which was I would go to bed, wake up. I know it'd be 7 a.m. and I'll be like, all right, guess I'm just up for the whole day now. Which sucks because now going back to work, I've been having the shittiest time falling asleep now. But we'll deal with that later as the week goes on. But I guess I could wrap this up real quick. I just wanted to talk about something that I've been watching a lot lately. I've been watching a lot of like Steam Deck videos. I think a lot of people kind of forgot about them because again, it's not a very easily purchasable product at this point, unless you got lucky with the early pre-orders and shit. But I've been watching a lot of Steam Deck videos, and I feel like the Steam Deck, like with every other piece of Valve hardware, like I've always been fascinated when Valve gets into the hardware market, with the Steam machines that failed. The Steam controller was a thing, and I think that like it had a purpose for a short time in the market. I bought the Steam Link. That's like the only Valve piece of hardware I still have in my house, but I don't use it. It's just sitting there in my room in the corner, which I kind of treat like more like a memorabilia thing. Like I would have loved to buy these like products and just put them in the wall. It's like, look, this is something Valve made. It's a piece of hardware, and
Right.
my thoughts on the Steam machine was when it first got announced, which I think the most important thing about the Steam machine we have to talk about. I know we're really late behind this, but I think this is more relevant now. Is we remember the time? Do you remember exactly what got announced the same time as the Steam machine? Not Steam machine, the Steam Deck, Marcos.
No, I can't quite recall.
On the same day as the Switch OLED got announced, Valve
Oh, right.
announced the Steam Deck.
Right.
And I
I
think
remember
that
that.
was like the shook up it was because a lot of people, I like I've said before in my take on the Switch Pro thing, I don't think Nintendo's going to do it. Nintendo doesn't really do side upgrades aside from some rare exceptions like maybe the new 3DS, but those are like super specific situations. People wanted a 4K display and all this other crap, and I'm like, listen, guys, Nintendo is a company that knows how much this isn't like Sony where they weren't making money on any PlayStation for years and years until way later after the console's lifestyle. Sony life cycle. So Nintendo wants to make money from the Switch from the word go. That's why they sell it at $300 because it's a very marketable price. But at the same time as the OLED was announced, which people saw it as like a vanity upgrade. It wasn't like something hardware related. It was just a better screen, which, don't get me wrong, as someone who mostly plays my Switch on portably, I think I would like an OLED screen, but am I really going to buy a whole new system for it? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Exactly. So, my thoughts on the Steam Deck, as someone who's been for years fascinated with the concept of like, how do we get PC gaming on the go? And there's been so many products. Most of them were bullshit. Most of them didn't even come out. I think I remember back in high school, I remember this really bullshit campaign called the Smash Z. That was a fucking scam. Like that was a whole fucking. There was a great video by a YouTube channel called Stop Drop and Retro where he does like mostly like reviews of like neat little hardware where it's like, oh, check out this Game Boy that like you could play in the prison and shit like that, or like, hey, check out this emulation deck, because emulation consoles, especially like in like third party websites like AliExpress and stuff like that, are common. That's not really difficult to make like an Android based device to play those kind of games. But the one thing that people want is like a way to play PC games on a handheld, right? Not like on a gaming laptop and stuff. And there's been so many attempts of it. Most of them have been scams on Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all this sort of shit. And the only two I could think of that were legitimate and they came out and they were great was the GPD Win, which was, to be fair though, it was like an Indiegogo project, but they were front with it. They say, look, this is what we're working on. They made an actual prototype that actually exists, not that Smart C bullshit that they were trying to like peddle with people like using like a gaming laptop clearly hooked up to a screen. And then people are saying, oh, this is truly a gaming experience. Like, no, it's a fucking display you're playing with. That's what you're doing with. and all these other like micro like DS size computers, people were always demanding like, why isn't like a bigger company doing it? Because that's like the risk you take with like an interesting product idea on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, is that like if a product is actually going to be that good, why hasn't a bigger company made it and made it at a cheaper price? Because let's be honest though, these people that are asking like, you know, Kickstarter project money and stuff like that, they're going to use every dollar that they can get to build the product for you, right? But when you're a bigger company that's funded by like billions of, you know, like shareholders and shit like that, they don't have that risk. They can make a good product that's going to cost a lot of money, but they're going to sell it to you at a consumer retail price because they don't need like that exact amount. You know what I'm saying, Marcos? Like going back to
Yeah,
the
but
PS.
like it's also a supply and demand thing. I mean, we could even look at the Panda controllers, GameCube controllers that they were going to release, but then given some supply issues, they couldn't release all the GameCube controllers that they were making all at once. So they refund everyone. Why couldn't Nintendo or another third party make something like this? Well, it's because the supply and demand, or maybe they're not into the market, or even simply put it, they don't want to put their money into this. Like Nintendo doesn't want to revive the GameCube era in any way,
Just to
so
make
they're not
this
gonna.
one controller that's only going to be good for like one kind of specific game. Like it was kind of crazy
Yeah.
to me that not only did they like say, "Hey, we're going to make an adapter for the Wii U to just play Smash Brothers," which blew my mind because I was on the impression that like, "Oh, this is a GameCube adapter. This could play like in fucking Mario Kart," but you couldn't, and I was like, "Wait, this only could play Smash 4? That's it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's only it." And I was like, "But that's crazy because now the Switch you can use like any fucking controller you could get your hands on, and it
Right.
works just perfectly fine." But whatever, that's beside the point. So going back to my point though, is like there's always been this demand. It's like, why hasn't like a bigger company made an actual product like this? I know Alienware tried to make their own Switch thing. I don't know if that ever came to fruition. I don't know, maybe they pulled out on it because maybe there wasn't enough interest or something like that. But then out of nowhere, on the same day as the Switch OLED got announced, Valve comes in and says, "Hey, we're making the Steam Deck. It's going to be, you know, different pricing tiers and all this stuff, but this is what people have been wanting." I'm like, "Oh shit. Hell yeah, dude. That's up to my speed." But like, well, most people, I didn't immediately jump on it because I'm in the camp where it's just like, okay, that's kind of cool. I can play my PC games on the go, but when the hell am I ever on the go? I am a homebody through and through. Like, yes, the appealing factor of playing my PC games while taking a shit, great. That's the same feelings I felt when I got a Wii U. That's the same thing how I felt about when I got the Switch. Like, great, I can play Breath of the Wild on my TV, take it and go use it in the bathroom. But then that's about it. Am I really going to drop that kind of coin on it? But years have passed, months have passed. I eventually started watching Steam Deck videos because suddenly the product came back to my head. I'm like, hey, are people still buying these things? And I've been watching a lot of videos on them, and I would see myself getting one. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, this is the reason why I think the Steam Deck is more like a product for me, right? Here's the thing. I've had this dilemma, and I don't know, maybe you can relate to me with this, Marcos. I'm the kind of guy that I prefer all my games on PC. That's just how it is. It is my main platform. It is what I use 99.9% of the time. The
Right.
rare exception I play a console is usually because it's an exclusive or because I have it like right here. For example, like at work when I have time, I'll just play like I'll just boot up like Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that and just play a turn or something in between calls and shit, right? And I had a situation like this where there'll be a moment, like a good example was I wanted to play the new TMNT Shredder's Revenge game. I was super excited. Me and my cousin wanted to play it, but then the question came up, okay, if I can only buy it on one platform, which platform do I buy it on? Now, if I buy it on the Switch, it'll be the platform I don't play often, but I will have that game to play it. But it's the easiest system to set up co-op, and it's readily and it's also portable. But I prefer playing my games on PC, and I prefer
Mhm.
buying all my games on PC. A good example is that I've been still waiting to buy the Kingdom Hearts games on the Epic Game Store. But for the life of me, I can't pull the trigger because it's like, shit, you guys are giving me 1.5 and 2.5, but I gotta buy 2.8 and 3 separately for like a total of like $70 on the cheap end. But I could buy like the entire collection for 20 on PS4. Like now, those collections are worth pennies on the dollar because they made a bunch of them and they sold out like crazy. But at the end of the day, I would still much prefer to play Kingdom Hearts on my PC. That's just how I like to play it. And that's how I feel about like every game. I'm the kind of guy that'll be like, okay, I buy a game on Switch and PS4, but then eventually if it gets on sale on PC, I'll just buy it again on PC just so I don't have to touch it on the console anymore, right? So
Okay.
that's what the Steam Deck kind of drew me in, where it's like, shit, if I keep buying games on PC, buy games for the Steam Deck. Of course, you do have to risk that potential of like, will there be compatibility issues? Because it's not like a seamless transition. I will give credit; it is impressive that the Steam Deck is running Linux and its own custom version of Steam OS that makes it like super smooth and very like easy to use and shit. But again, you're also running the gamble of like, okay, is this game I'm about to buy easily runnable on the Steam Deck? But it is pretty impressive the compatibility I am seeing there. Like a lot of people told me that like, oh yeah, when Elden Ring first came out, I actually prefer playing it on the Steam Deck over my gaming PC because I could lock the frame rate at 30 and it played a lot smoother than it was when it was a stuttering mess back on the PC version when it came out. So
I like to see it as a when it comes to like other products have been made similarly. What happened? They popped off as hard. I like to view it as when someone makes a game and it's a standard. It's a given that hey, this is a game, right? And then someone else makes a game to that's similar like it, but with its own spin, and they're calling it, oh, this game B is game A killer. It's gonna kill game A.
oh
It's
yeah,
gonna
when Titanfall was the COD killer, I remember that.
or when
Or the
like,
WoW killer. Remember when every MMO after WoW came out,
right,
like this is the WoW killer.
or better, yeah, like all these. So I love Dead by Daylight. I think it's a great game. It's quite literally a fun game to play when it comes to like playing with friends and all that stuff. It's a bit frustrating at times, but it's one of those games where there's a lot of push and pull. But there are games that come out like Prop Night, Friday the 13th, which only has come back as popular because of the memes and all. But all that being said, like, oh, this is the Dead by Daylight killer. This is this killer. This is that. I'm like, yeah, but like all these games that try to be like this game, like Dead by Daylight, they end up dying quite quick. Or are these games trying to be like what do you call it? Like Call of Duty or Halo, they die quick. It's one of those things where like it's like no one really cares that it's you know a different product made by indie developers. It's the same thing basically, but like no one really cares. It'll die off quick. But Steam making it
Or Valve, more specifically.
or Valve, right? It's more of a like wow, this is actually happening, and I feel like people care more about that more than anything, that it has the Steam name on it. The same way has or the Valve name on it. The same way has people enjoy Nintendo products because well, Nintendo for as bad as they are as a company morally speaking or ethically speaking when it comes to like how they treat their client base,
Or
they
their fan
do know
base.
right. They do know how to make a good game, a good product, and they know how to move the what do you call it? Their fans in such a way where they just hold on to them like they're some sort of like religious cult leader. But all that being said, it's one of those things where I think the only reason the Steam Deck succeeded is a lot of people already use Steam. They know Steam. It's something that they're familiar with, they're comfortable with, and then the UI experience is it's very flexible. It's not as rigid. It's quite nice, and I think to add on to the point that you added with like, oh, I've started like watching videos, or like, oh, I just remembered that the Steam Deck existed. I've realized that too, that I would get a video for those who got the Steam Deck right away, and then I would get a YouTube recommended videos like, hey, my review on the Steam Deck, and I'm like, oh right, people didn't get this at one time. They're getting it in quarters, in different quarters.
Mhm.
So someone gets the Steam Deck, it's new to them, and they're like, hey, here's my review because I was Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and customer. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because like people are now releasing their own videos because they're not reviewing it, in person. It's quite nice, and I actually like this is feeding into the whole the market of like advertisements and stuff because people are like, hey, I finally got this one thing I was hype about for a while that I've seen different reviews on it and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and here's my copy and I'm gonna tell you what you guys think of it, my first impressions, my this, my that, all that stuff. So I think that's pretty cool that that this is
But
a
the
strategic
interesting
thing.
thing you brought up about like what like brand loyalty and stuff. Like I brought up the fact that like let's be honest though, like Valve has released hardware before and they didn't quite hit the market. I remember where people were incredibly hyped about like the Steam machines. Remember that, like, oh, console like PC gaming experience. But I'm like, okay, sell, like, I look at it from a perspective like, okay, how would you sell it to me? And I would look at it like, okay, if maybe the product doesn't do it for me, how does it do for certain people? I never understood the logic of the Steam machine, because the argument that I've always heard was like,
Steam
oh,
Deck
no, 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 no,
or
no, not the Steam Deck, the Steam machines, the home consoles that were built with Linux in
oh,
mind.
right.
It
I
was supposed to
remember.
be like this alternative for console fans that like, oh, I can't do the PC thing because it's too complicated and stuff like that. And like, and the whole like, oh, I don't want to build a computer. And I'm like, you only got to build it once, you know that, right? Like after you just
Right.
turn it on and play it. I never got the whole bullshit argument about like, oh, I can't do the whole building thing. Like, okay, then build it once. Do you guys like smash your Legos after you're done building it? Like, that's it. Like, you build it, you're done with it, you know. Um, but I
Right. No, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
But like when people are telling me, "Oh yeah, these things are console killers. The consoles are gonna die because people are just gonna buy these things," I'm like, "Wait, okay, work on me on this." So you can't change the equipment, you can't upgrade in any way. You're forced to use Linux on it. Unless you want to dual boot Windows on it, which that's gonna add more complications to this thing. It's like trying to add the Windows on the Steam Deck. Like, yes, you can do that, but most people found out that's not really necessary because people realize like, yeah, I could just install Windows on it, but like, do you need to install Windows on it? No, not really, because why would you want to take an operating system that was built clearly for that product and then take it out only to put in another operating system that was not made for that product, and it's only going to be more complicated just to increase your compatibility, but that might actually risk more trouble in the long run. But anyways, and that's what I think I looked at, and that's another thing why I looked at like the Steam controller. Like Valve makes like these controllers and products where they're like, oh, we're going to solve a specific issue, and it's going to be marketed to the general populace, but it's probably going to be only useful for a handful of people. People saw the Steam controller at the end of the day is like, yeah, this is kind of a cheaper alternative to the 360 controller. But to be fair though, Valve was saying like, look, we're not trying to compete with the Xbox 360 controller. This is a controller made for people to play games that can't be played with a normal controller, like like Sims or like RTS games or things like that, because those games don't have controller support. Like you don't buy Age of Empires to play with a 360 controller, you buy it to play with a full mouse and keyboard setup, right? But the argument that Valve was saying was like, oh, we want to make something that could do both. And it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you're comparing a controller to a console that is made for this experience versus another controller that at best it's a cheaper alternative to a 360 controller with a funky trackpad, which I've heard, and I've it's crazy, like I've heard like completely 180 different stories of like, oh yeah, the trackpad best aiming than the controller. Other people tell me they can't fucking use it because the aiming is just kind of weird, because at the end of the day you're using a trackpad to aim, not a fucking full mouse pad, a trackpad. And that's the thing what always fascinates me about Valve hardware is that they make interesting products, but I don't know if they're incredibly marketable for the solution to the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like they're super niche, but they market it to the general populace. That's why I looked at the Steam machines like, this is so fucking stupid. Like if you want to build a computer that's going to be a console, just build a mini ITX PC that you could upgrade. Not buy a computer that is limited from the word go, and then you're gimped from the performance. Like that's it. You can't do anything about it. You just Max Payne runs like shit. Guess what? Max Payne runs like shit now. You can't do anything about it. But with the PC, that's like the benefit. You could change shit in order to make it better. So to me, the Steam Deck is more of that category. It's like I think a lot of people are going to be interested because it answers a lot of questions. I've seen people who told me that like, yeah, I don't have a gaming PC, but I'm going to buy a Steam Deck because every game I want to play plays on it just fine. I'm like, hey, go for it, dude. You can use it for a computer if you want. But to me, I like to look at it more as an extension to my computer, knowing that's like, okay, if I buy a game on Steam and I install it on the Steam deck, I could play that game wherever I go. And if there's cross saving enabled, you could like take the progression with you. So to me, it solves that question I brought up earlier with the Shredder's Revenge game, where it's like, okay, if I buy TMNT Shredder's Revenge on Steam, I don't gotta buy it on the Switch later. I just buy it once on Steam, and then I can take the Steam Deck with me, and then plug it up to a TV, and then bam, there you go. I have local co-op right there, readily available to me. And that's the thing. What I'm saying is that like Valve makes interesting products, but either they're super niche or they don't like serve the general populace. But I think the Steam Deck is kind of in that category. Will I buy one? Will I put a reservation in? I don't know, because on one hand, like, yeah, I think it'll be kind of neat, but I don't want to buy like a $600 product, which is probably going to be another $200 worth of investment according to accessories like a dock, a USB cable, a fucking HDMI setup, the whole shebang, and obviously upgrading the storage. Because even if you get the most expensive Steam Deck, which is I think like 600 gigabytes, I think, of internal storage, not counting the fact that the operating system is included in that is part of that storage. Obviously you're going to buy an external SD card because you want to make the thing bigger. So my thing is that I probably would be more interested in using it more as like an emulation device because the emulation on that thing is really impressive.
Yeah.
So
I, w-
I don't know. I think that maybe one day I'll get a Steam Deck, but I'm not exactly rushing for it.
I will say though, when it comes to like the whole people complaining about like a computer being complicated and all that stuff, um, as time goes on, obviously computers are getting a lot more simpler and all that stuff. And sure, that may be the case, but I have that same mentality where like if someone doesn't understand a computer, I'm not gonna give them crap because they just bought a console and they don't have to deal with it. It's like me giving crap to someone who doesn't know anything about an internal combustion engine car, so a regular car. So because they don't want to deal with oil changes or anything, they just buy a Tesla. You can do whatever you want, but like cars they aren't that complicated to tell you the truth, and computers are a little bit more complicated than cars. I feel like because when it comes to software, things get a little bit more complicated. But the hardware wise, it's very very similar. But I can see why people want a console over PC. Obviously, this is just a whole argument about like just turning things on and not even worrying about if it's ever going to turn on or if this hardware is compatible with this or that. The software's compatible with this or that. That's why I like the whole Steam Deck approach because it's very, it's I guess it's a nice introductory way of going into gaming. Using a portable device. Some gaming laptops even give you like this MSI computer that laptop that I have gives you alerts on like, hey, you should update this, you should update that. It's very user friendly, which I turned off because I didn't really need it. Um, it is very very friendly. Does help you guide your way into it. But like people don't want to deal with a whole bunch of like complicated nonsense. But when it comes to the Steam Deck, from what I was able to see, it seems like a quality product. The only thing that I've seen people complain about, hardware wise, is just like the left buttons and joystick positions, but that's really it. Everything else is very streamlined, very smooth, very everything. And people are even saying the upgrade to the what was it when it comes with an SSD in the like the 800 variant, the $800 variant of it.
Yeah, there was this thing going around that people saying like there is a way to actually internally upgrade it, but Valve's developers, like the people who make it, say like, look, yes, technically you could install like a specific SSD that you could buy on eBay because it's like it's an SSD, but it's like shaped ironically like a processor. It's really just you swap it like it's like a regular SSD, but apparently they told people like, yes, you could do it and it will work, but we don't recommend it because in the long run, because you opened up the hard drive and exact do that, it could apparently damage the Steam Deck. So that's a situation where like I would never internally upgrade the Steam Deck. I would just only upgrade. I would just get the higher hard drive space and then just put a micro SD card if I need to make the storage even bigger.
Basically, and that's since micro SD cards are now reaching a terabyte, no problem with good
I still been
written
rocking the
write
2 TB
speeds.
SSD on my Switch for years, and I still haven't filled it up.
Uh, oh, a 2 terabyte SSD.
Not
That's
SSD,
crazy.
micro SD card. My bad.
A 2 terabyte micro SD card.
Yeah, I think it might be no, it might be just 1 TB. My bad. It might just be 1 TB. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 2 terabytes. Really expensive. Where'd you get that?
I mean, they make it. I know. I know they make a two
No, they
terabyte.
do. It's very expensive, relatively expensive, because I know the 1 terabyte micro SD cards has become going into the market. It's basically the same price as a 128 gigabyte USB drive when you and I were like in middle school in sixth grade or something like that. It's very similarly priced, or like a very very basic HDMI cable when HDMI's first came out. Like
Hmm.
today's HDMI's cable, basic ones would have been high quality back then, type of things. You know what I mean? So like stuff like that. Like it's pretty. It's pretty interesting that like now the market's like, hey, are you all ready for a relatively nice priced SD card that is now, or micro SD card that is the size of, well, your your pinky, the nail on your pinky. Well, here you go. Here's Moore's laws in action, dropping the price and increasing the capacity all in one go.
Yep.
I love it.
I mean, like that's why like a lot of people hated the Sony handhelds because it's like, oh, we're Sony, we're gonna make these like super expensive and a super small size memory units, and you can't change it with anything common like an SD card. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna charge them super expensive, and we're gonna make the size like ridiculously tiny. That's why people hated the Vita, because it's like, damn, dude, like fuck, I can't use like a generic SD card, and I gotta pay for higher
Dude,
storage. Like, nah,
speaking
that was
about,
ridiculous.
I was watching, I was discussing this with a good friend of mine who's like really into Sony, or not just Sony, just like games as a whole, and we were just talking about like products that like obviously had a lot more TLC, tender loving care, from the creators, which now become what we know now. So like Final Fantasy 14, or maybe it was certain products that had more tender loving care compared to like anything else. And the Vita could have been the easiest like uh portable console killer. It could have killed off the DS. It could have killed off any other competition for portable gaming, handheld gaming. And the only thing that beat Nintendo at handheld gaming was, well, their own product, the Switch. So the Vita could have been so much better. It could have literally moved a lot of people from Xbox to PlayStation overnight. If you saw what the Vita did, how it was compatible with your PlayStation 4, and heck, imagine what it could have done with the PlayStation 5 if they had just updated the software, etc., etc., etc. But like, they didn't get the numbers they wanted at the very beginning. They're like, all right, this is a dead product. They just had to like give
Which
it
is
a
crazy
little
because it
bit more
lived
effort.
way longer in Japan. Like, you could still go to
Right.
Japan and still buy like a Vita, and it's like constantly supported to this day. But you know, like I said, it's it's like that's the same thing how I felt like the original PSP. Like, the original PSP was a fucking cool ass system. It just
Yeah.
didn't have games in America to keep people interested. Like, what are
Right.
you gonna keep playing Daxter over and over again? Like, but then you go to Japan, it's like, oh shit, there's like really good. Unless you were a really big fan of JRPGs, because the PSP was a fucking beast with JRPGs on that
Hmm.
beat and that bad boy, but that's about it.
Especially Monster Hunter, dude. Like
Monster
Generation
Hunter,
4 of
Final Fantasy, Persona, a bunch of other RPGs on the top of my head I can't think of right now. It was that Jack and Daxter Frontier game that I heard that it's pretty mixed, but whatever. But like, yeah, that's what people says. Like, yeah, the system's actually pretty good. It's just wasn't supported.
Dude, the Vita could have just done. It literally could have just washed away any competition. It would have. I personally believe it would have pushed Xbox and Nintendo to literally think outside the box, and including portable stuff when it comes to like their gaming and stuff. I mean, Xbox now has their
Cloud
VX
service.
Cloud and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like, that's not really part of the whole equation anymore. But the Vita could have like really changed the game. All I'm saying is, uh, I get that people look at metrics when it comes to globally speaking, and when it comes to locally, like with the Vita and there's its Japanese market, they still got support, but not to the support that the PSP had, not to the support that Nintendo did with their 3DS models, how they gave it an upgraded version to the XL, and then the 2D, the 2DS XL. It was like night and day, and it sucks that it was. This is like how the Vita ended, but like, yeah,
To me, I like
here
to
we
look
are
at
now.
how here's the problem that Sony does. Sony tries to copy Nintendo. Let me put a perfectly good
True.
analogy. There was a kid back in high school who was a massive Sony fanboy. He preferred Sony over everything else, right? And I think
I
you
think I
might
know
know
who
who
you're
I'm
talking
talking
about.
about. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I
exactly.
know.
This fucking kid tried so hard to make Sony seem like they're completely original and they never stole any ideas. And the example that he was using was PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. God, saying that name just sounds like the most generic fucking corporate thing I ever heard in my life. Like, hey guys, let's
Yeah.
just use every fucking name we could use. And obviously, as we know, it was Sony's answer to Smash Brothers. But they tried to do something different, but then they added combos and all this shit. It's like, oh, you don't knock the enemies out. You just had to do like a super specific combo in order to knock them out, which kind of like drained the thing, and it was a pretty lame game and everything. And I just looked at that as like, this is so fucking forgettable and lame, but this kid tried, and he fucking tried to make it seem like it was better, and he was trying to make it competitive, and I'm like, look, dude, take the L. We hate fucking Smash Brothers Brawl, but we would rather play that than this piece of shit, right? And
Wait, y'all hated Brawl?
no, I'm
Wait,
talking about
there's
like just a super competitive. Me, I loved Brawl when I was back then, but like I'm just talking about like the competitive scene. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, it was bad in the competitive scene.
Right. So, the point I was trying to make it, and then this kid also had a PS Vita, and to be honest though, I didn't use the Vita. Obviously, I didn't buy it. I didn't even know it fucking existed for the longest time until like one time I saw it in a Sony presentation. Like, oh, you could use remote play and play PlayStation 4 games with your Vita. I'm like, great. I guess. Um, but
Hmm.
the first time I ever held a Vita was actually your brother's, and I held on to this thing like, man, this product quality is like pretty good,
It's
and like,
good.
and the game
It's really
selection is
good.
really good, and the fact that there's two analog sticks already built into this shit's actually like really good
Especially when you held it with the. I'm not sure if you ever did, but I
with the
held
grip.
it with a with like an actual palm grip, and that thing felt so smooth, man.
Hmm.
I'm telling you, I was missing out.
But like as I was holding it and I was playing Skullgirls, I was like, man, this is actually like, really good. And this thing can play Marvel 3. Fuck yeah, this is pretty good. And then I realized like, so what's the original game selection like? And everyone's just like, wouldn't you like to fucking know that? We just play Hatsune Miku and that's about it, dude. We got nothing else on
Yeah,
this bad boy. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna buy a 3DS at this point.
basically, and then also Smash on the 3DS. Let's go.
Exactly, and it's just like, yeah, that's the problem, and that's what happened with Sony. Like Sony made a pretty cool handle. It was pretty beefy, had all this potential, and even had the like 3G shit. Which rest in peace, Etika. That funny moment where like he sued he sued Sony for the 3G fucking connectivity issue, and he won the case. Did you know about the story,
I
Marcos?
completely forgot about that. Holy crap!
Like,
Yeah.
okay, so for those who don't know, rest in peace, Etika. Etika apparently had an issue where he bought a Vita with the 3G model, and because there was like complicated, because Sony really wanted to market the mobile market or some shit like that,
Yeah.
whatever. He bought the 3G model. It didn't work. It was a complete shit show. It didn't work. So Etika went to his lawyer. He's like, hey, what do I do? He's like, well, just make a class action lawsuit. He won the suit. He got the check in the mail. Rather than cashing it in, he framed it, and he fucking did a dance in front of the Sony headquarters in his city.
Yeah.
And I was just
Yeah.
like, damn, that's fucking great. Holy shit, man. God, I miss that guy. Fuck, man, I still miss him. That dude still makes me laugh from the grave. Like, fuck, man, I missed Etika. Shit.
All the more reasons why mental any form of mental health is like very important.
Yeah.
Uh, the when it comes to the Vita, dude, so much. I'm mad at Sony for having all this potential just poof into the air, like it doesn't even matter, and it's frustrating. But like obviously everything's on the Game Pass now. Speaking of things not being the Game Pass, Bungie is now officially part of Sony.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh shit! I didn't know about
like
this. Yeah,
I
the
think it was it's all legal now.
damn dude, the cycle came through. Holy
I
shit!
ha-
So
it
wait, so Bungie went from all right, we're working with Mac. Then Microsoft said, "No, fuck that. We need a killer app for the Xbox." And then they went back. Then they said, "Fuck Microsoft. We're gonna be our own thing." And then they go with Blizzard, and then they get cucked by Blizzard, and then later they go back to Sony.
so I had to explain to someone in the group chat that like so he thought that bless his heart, he's going through some stuff right now. He's going through a lot, like for real, for real.
Hmm.
He goes, does that mean Halo's coming to Sony? And I go, no, Bungie never owned the IP, and that he he thought. I guess it was one of those Mandela effects where he thought the IP was solely a Bungie thing, and he goes,
No,
no, no,
fuck
no,
that. Microsoft bought it.
Bungie, yeah,
Yeah, originally
Bungie
supposed to come out on
was
the fucking Mac.
right. And I said, yeah, Microsoft is the one that owns it. They're the big daddies of it, and Bungie was just on the ride. They were just developing the game, and he was like, really, really like digging deep into the crevice of his mind, like, hey, look, like I could have sworn like they owned this, like yeah, but like it's a Microsoft thing now for like a while now.
Why do you
So
think they
yeah,
kept making Halo games without Bungie? Like that's the
hmm
point. Like that's what companies do. They're like, all right, oh, you don't want to make another game? All right, fuck it. We'll hire Zanzuru Games to make Sly 4.
I it was nice. I just hope the Destiny DLC will be at a cheaper price now since on Sony products now since it's now a part of the Sony family. But to each their own, I guess. But like it was quite nice news that we're having this big what's the word? It's not a monopoly. It's a oligarchy, I guess, where it's multiple companies that own everything, and they're friendly with each other too. So that like I won't fuck with you, you won't fuck with me. We're just gonna do all this. Like it's one of those
You mean
situations.
like Nintendo and Microsoft are like, hey, we bought this company, but we'll still release games on your platform?
True. Yeah, Nintendo and Microsoft are a little bit more friendly
I
when it
think it's
comes to
still
like.
funny, like to point to the antithesis of this. Remember, like when Sony was like super stubborn, like, crossplay's stupid, we're not gonna do it, or we don't care if people want it. This is really dumb. And then Microsoft and Sony were like, Microsoft and Nintendo were like, all right, bet, hey, release that Minecraft trailer and put both our logos
Yep.
in there and say that we're kissing each
Yep.
other. Let's do it. Let's piss them off. It's like, hey man,
That
look how gay we
was
are. Look at us, we're kissing each other. Bet you
that
wish you could have
was
this.
big, dude. When that happened, the colors, given that green and red are complementary colors as well, it was crazy. It was a crazy, crazy ad. Everyone's popping off. Everyone was already complaining about the whole Fortnite cross save things. Like, hey, why can't I cross play with my friends in Fortnite in other platforms? Which, what was it? You remember when we first found out Fortnite was super easy to cross play? It was just a flip up a switch because some guy says, "Hey, I was playing with someone who had a space in their name, and no one in PlayStation has a space in their name." So I looked it up on Xbox, and I found the dude, and he was just playing PlayStation. I mean, he was just playing Fortnite, and the response was, "Oh yeah, Fortnite devs goes or the PR team says, yeah, we could just flip a switch. It was an accident." And then everyone was bashing on PlayStation, saying, come on, crossplay, crossplay, crossplay." And they go, all right, all right.
I mean, it's not even that
Here's
like
here's
crazy to even
cross
think
save.
about it. Where it's just like to put in perspective, like when Final Fantasy 14 and was a thing, and 11, Sony and Square were super tight with each other. They asked them like, "Hey, we want to release 14 on PC, and we also want Xbox players to do it." Like, nope, you only can release it on PlayStation. That's it. You can't release it on any other console aside from PlayStation. And that was just how it was. It's just like they
Respect,
had to come to that agreement.
respect. Yeah, that's true. So I mean, yeah, complementary colors with the Minecraft thing, with the red and
Green,
green. It
yeah.
was funny, and PlayStation was being pressured heavy in the court of public opinion, and it was funny. I liked it a lot, but obviously now, PlayStation's leaning a bit more for like cross play platform play or cross play. Yeah, if you get a little extra to Sony, which they're gonna do because more money for everyone.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I think, do you have anything else left to say, Marcus? 'Cause we've been going on for over like an hour and 30 minutes now. Do you have anything else
Yeah,
you
you're
want?
right. I lost track of time. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's
No,
crazy.
I'm chilling, dude. This was a good episode.
Yeah, I'm just glad to be back, man. Like I said, it was hell. I'm glad everything kind of worked out in the end. I just kind of had to just relax and just accept, like, all right, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I'm always the worry wart kind of guy. I think that's kind of what's fucked me up so much about this year. That's like the biggest issue I had with this year was that I try to step out of my comfort zone and change things in my life, and that's kind of what's putting me through the ringer right now. But that's how life is sometimes. Like, sometimes you got to take those risks in hand, and and another thing in life is secure. Like, you might be working at a job for years and years, you might be the best employee ever, and then, oh, job got bought, now you got laid off, and you got to find a job in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But this year has been kind of interesting. I went through two jobs. Now I'm at my second new job, and I thought about going back to doing security, but then I started thinking back, and I'm like, you know what, man, like, nah, I've worked so hard to get out of that nonsense, and I don't really want to invite myself that kind of trouble. But that's life, man. Life isn't certain. You always gotta keep doing. And I've started telling people like that Bruce Lee quote where it's like, you put the water into a cup, it becomes the cup. If you pour that water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be like water, my friend. And I thought about that. I was like, that's a good point. Like, you shouldn't put yourself in this position where it's like you can't be anything else other than that. So I just been kind of away from social media and being away from everything, and I just don't want to set promises and disappoint people, and whether because I'm dealing with work or I'm super tired, or like even today, like even though I woke up super early and I was like half asleep, I took a nap. I was just so fucking tired. But yeah, after we're done recording this episode, I'm just gonna go straight back to bed and try to get back and try to get this episode out by Tuesday, and hopefully we'll go from there. But I'm gonna stop rambling from then on. I'm just gonna say, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for those for been patient and been supporting us through these times. If you haven't yet, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We love to, if you love this content, we want to see more of it. If you want to enjoy our podcast and other services like maybe Spotify, Google Podcasts, or even Anchor, we are available on those platforms. Feel free to listen to us there. All the links will be down below. And if you want to join our community and want to talk to us a bit, our Discord server is right there in the link as well in the description. So feel free to click on the link, join our server, and we would love to have you. With that, just want to say thank you so much, everyone, and take care, and see you next time. Take care.